Hello everyone, and welcome to my B&B Fan Club channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The Forrester estate was a sparkling fortress of money and secrets, with polished marble floors that echoed the weight of unspoken truths. Katie Logan stood in the spacious living room, her arms crossed, her sharp eyes examining the place as if the answers to her inquiries were hidden among the magnificent furnishings. The air was thick with tension, the type that only a convoluted family like the Forresters could create. She'd come here tonight for a reason, a nagging hunch in her gut, and now, holding the thin plastic stick in her hand, she felt the world shift beneath her feet. This was a pregnancy test. Positive. The two pink lines looked back at her as a challenge, daring her to solve the mystery of who they belonged to. Katie discovered it tucked away in the guest toilet, half hidden beneath a box of tissues, as if someone had intended to conceal it but hadn't done it well. Her first thought, like a blast of lightning, was Luna. Luna, the sweet and impetuous one, had been acting strangely for weeks, distant one minute and too joyful the next. Katie had seen the indications before, and she was familiar with the patterns of secrecy in this family. But now, standing in the gloomy light of the mansion, her confidence faltered. Something did not add up. "Katie, what are you doing here this late?" Brooke's voice cut through the silence, gentle yet full of anxiety. She paused at the doorway, her golden hair catching the light, her eyes narrowing as she recognized the object Katie was holding. "What is that?" Katie paused, her fingers clenching on the test. She and Brooke had been through too much together, betrayals, heartbreaks, and reconciliations, to conceal anything this significant. But it was more than just trust. It was about keeping their family's delicate equilibrium. "I found it," she eventually announced, holding out the test. "We're in the bathroom." Brooke's eyes widened and her palm sprang to her chest. She suspected it was Luna's. "Luna? Oh, Katie. No. Are you sure? She's so young." "I'm not sure about anything," Katie said, her voice low. "But she's been acting strangely, Brooke. You have seen it. The way she has been avoiding everyone, particularly RJ. I wondered if she was hiding something like this." Brooke moved closer, her attitude a mix of concern and determination. "We cannot jump to conclusions. Luna has gone through a lot, between her mother and the scandal at Forrester Creations. Perhaps it isn't hers." Katie frowned. "Perhaps it's someone else's." Someone else? Who else would have left anything like this sitting around the Forrester mansion? Her thoughts raced through the possibilities. Hope, Steffi, or even a guest. But none of them fitted. Hope was overly cautious, while Steffi was too private. Then, like a whisper in the back of her mind, another name appeared. Lee Finnegan. Lee, the composed, stoic doctor who has been a constant in their lives since Finn's birth. Lee had been spending more time at the mansion recently, offering her medical expertise and parental guidance. Lee had been particularly silent at their previous family gathering, her eyes remote and her words clipped. Could it be? "Brooke," Katie asked softly, "what if it's not Luna's? What if it is Lee's?" Brooke froze, her mouth parted in disbelief. "Lee, Katie, it is impossible. She's older. And she is married to Jack. Why would she? Why is anyone in this family doing anything?" Katie interrupted, her voice fierce. "Brooke, secrets are our currency. You know it better than anyone else. Lee has also been acting strangely. I spotted her the other day, hurrying out of the guest house." Brooke shook her head, but a sense of uncertainty had been sown. "We have to be careful, Katie." "I'm not accusing anyone," Katie responded, though her tone suggested otherwise. "I'm just saying we have to find out the truth. For Luna's sake. For everyone's benefit." The following morning, the Forrester mansion was buzzing with its typical controlled mayhem. Rich sat in his office, drawing designs for the new collection, while Steffi gave commands to her crew via video call. Hope stayed in the corridor, phone clamped to her ear, contemplating a possible partnership with a European designer. But Katie's thoughts were elsewhere. She'd tucked the pregnancy test inside her purse, its weight a constant reminder of the mystery. She discovered Luna in the yard, seated on a stone bench, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders as she gazed at the roses. Luna's face was pale and her eyes were red-rimmed, as if she had been crying. Katie's heart contracted. If the test was not Luna's, what was causing the pain? Luna, Katie whispered quietly, sitting next to her. Can we talk? Luna looked up, shocked, and immediately dried her tears. Oh, Katie. I did not see you there. I'm fine actually. Katie kindly commented. You don't seem to be doing well. You have been distant recently. Is something happening? You know you can talk to me. Luna's lips quiver, and Katie worried she'd reveal everything. Luna shook her head and forced a grin. It is nothing. This is just family stuff. You know how it goes. Katie pondered before deciding to take a risk. Luna, I have found something. In the bathroom. A pregnancy test. Is this yours? Luna's eyes widened, and her face lost color. What? No. Katie, no, it is not mine. I swore. Katie felt relief and a surge of questions after hearing her unwavering conviction that she was not pregnant. Okay, I believe you, she replied. But if it's not yours, who owns it? Luna's eyes shifted away, and Katie saw a glimpse of something. Fear, perhaps, or shame. I don't know, Luna responded hurriedly. Perhaps it is a mistake. Katie's thoughts shifted back to Lee. It could be old or someone else's. She didn't press Luna any further. She was visibly shaken. Instead, she stood with a reassuring grin. Do not worry. I'll figure it out. Her next destination was the hospital, where Lee Finnegan worked. Katie had always admired Lee's fortitude and ability to stay calm under pressure, but tonight she wanted answers. She found Lee at her office, reading patient charts with a professional demeanor. But there was something off, a little trembling in her hands, a tightness around her lips. Katie, Lee said, smiling politely. What brought you here? I need to speak with you, Katie murmured, slamming the door behind her. It concerns something I discovered at the Forrester mansion. A pregnancy test. Lee's smile faltered briefly, but it was enough. Katie's instincts told her that she was onto something. A pregnancy test? Lee stated, her tone intentionally neutral. What makes you think I know anything about that? Because I saw you, Lee, Katie murmured, moving closer. You have been acting strangely. You've spent more time at the mansion than normal, and have been sidetracked. Is there anything you aren't telling us? Lee's eyes hardened, and Katie briefly considered denying it. But then Lee sighed, her shoulders dropping as if a weight had been lifted or added. It's mine, she replied gently. The test is mine. Katie's breath caught. She had guessed it, but seeing it verified was like a hit in the gut. Yours? Lee, how? Why didn't you say anything? It's complicated, Lee explained, barely above a whisper. Jack and I have been experiencing troubles. This wasn't planned. I didn't believe it was possible at my age. But it's real. Katie slumped into a chair, her thoughts reeling. Does Jack know? Lee shakes her head. Not yet. I haven't discovered the proper timing. I didn't want to contribute to the upheaval with Finn, Steffi, and Luna's conflict. Lee, you can't keep this a secret forever, Katie said. It's tremendous. It'll affect everyone, Finn, Jack, and the entire family. I know, Lee replied, her voice shaking. But I am terrified, Katie. I'm not sure if I'm ready for this. Or if Jack is. The revelation reverberated through the Forrester and Finnegan families for the following few weeks. Katie, true to her character, was unable to keep the secret for long. She confided in Brooke, who was split between sympathy for Lee and concern about the impact on Finn and Steffi's already damaged marriage. Finn was astonished when he learned that his mother was pregnant at her age. It was unimaginable. He confronted Lee, demanding answers, but her replies just made him more confused. Jack, meanwhile, was taken aback, his pride clashing with his love for Lee as he dealt with the news. Luna, happy that the test was not her responsibility, found herself caught in the crossfire. Her own secrets, her growing love for RJ, despite their convoluted history, weren't as shocking as Lee's pregnancy, but the news provided her an unusual sense of clarity. She realized she couldn't keep avoiding her emotions, so she confronted RJ, setting the stage for another emotional battle. At Forrester Creations, the drama spilled into the office. Ridge, who was already managing the demands of the fashion firm, was frustrated by the continual personal difficulties. Can't we go one day without a scandal? he muttered at Brooke, who could only chuckle bitterly. Steffi, ever the pragmatist, tried to keep the conversation on the upcoming collection, but she couldn't ignore the tension. Hope saw an opening and pushed her own agenda, exploiting the commotion to advance her line at Forrester. As the weeks went into months, Lee's pregnancy served as a spur for transformation. Jack and Lee began to mend their broken marriage, finding a renewed sense of purpose in the unexpected gift of a child. Finn and Steffi were inspired by the news to address their own challenges, recommitting to their partnership with renewed zest. Luna and RJ took timid steps toward a genuine connection, but not without misunderstandings and grief. Katie felt both satisfied and exhausted as she watched it all unfold. She had discovered the truth, as she always did, but the cost was high. The Forrester family was stronger by it, but the consequences of their secrets would remain. As she stood in the mansion's garden, watching the sunset paint the sky with gold and scarlet, she wondered what the next revelation might be. In this household, there was always another mystery to be discovered. The narrative of Lee's pregnancy was just one chapter in the bold and the beautiful's never-ending drama. A reminder that love, treachery, and forgiveness are never far apart. And as the sun set, Katie knew that tomorrow would be another day of passion, drama, and the unwavering search of truth. Katie felt a chilly knot on her throat. She gazed at the pregnancy test in her palm, blinking hard to stabilize herself, her heart racing. This couldn't be happening. Everything she had believed and dreaded seemed to come undone in that one moment. She was certain the test belonged to Luna. She had believed the panic, the murmurs and the hints, that Luna was pregnant and that the baby would forever link Will to her. But the truth hit Luna like a physical blow. This was not her test. This was Lee's. Katie's head spun. The room around her appeared to tilt, with the walls closing in and receding simultaneously. The ramifications, the consequences, echoed deafeningly in her head. She strained to take a breath. How could she have been wrong? How could she have been so blinded by assumptions that she failed to consider the possibility that someone else was at the core of this catastrophic storm? She slid to the side of the couch, the test still trembling in her fingers. Her eyes were filled with tears, not just of amazement, but also of betrayal, confusion, and pain. She felt like she'd lost her footing in a world she thought she knew. Everything she thought was a threat suddenly appeared to be a red herring. A trap. A deceit. Katie's thoughts raced backward, revisiting each moment. Tension between Lee and Luna. The suspicious stares. Luna's startling claim that she was pregnant. Panic, cover-ups, and test results. Everything surged forward in a chaotic montage. Each frame felt unique, full of new significance. What was real if Lee was the one who took the test? What had been faked? What exactly had been manipulated? She forced herself to stand, trembling, and paced around the room. It felt strange and awkward. Her breathing was shallow, and her pulse thumped in her ears. She kept staring at the test, refusing to put it away. It was proof. Confirmation that she had been duped, and proof that Lee was playing a far more complicated game than she had believed. Her thoughts drifted to Lee. What would Lee want? Why would she claim a pregnancy that wasn't hers, or let others assume it was? The motives appeared dark and twisted. What was Lee's ultimate goal if she had planted the test or exchanged tests? To protect somebody? To cause pain? To control Will, Luna, or Katie herself? Katie's rage erupted, rising hot and ferocious. How dare Lee deceive everyone's faith like this? How dare she play with principles, futures, and hearts? Katie's senses told her there must be a reason, a secret purpose. She would discover it. She would ensure that no more lies festered in the shadows. Her attention moved to the phone on the side table. She thought about Will, Luna, Bridget, and Bill. They had all been sucked into the turmoil. She had to warn and protect Will. But she also had to address Lee, softly, methodically, to get her to confess what she was concealing. Katie paused before picking up. She forced herself to think slowly and carefully. First, she'd confirm the truth. She had to be confident that the test was Lee's. She would silently secure it before comparing it to other evidence such as DNA, lab results, and hospital files. She would peel aside each layer, revealing the core. And once she got proof, she planned to meet Lee face to face. She would expect an apology and an explanation. She would not let Lee's deception damage anyone else. Katie's resolve hardened. She placed the test in an envelope, sealed it, and slid it inside her luggage. She strolled outside and took in the night air. Her breath came out in chilly puffs. But she felt stronger, awakened. She refused to let this go. She would reveal the lies. And she would do everything it took to safeguard Will, Luna, and everything else she valued. Katie arrived early the next morning at Lee's workplace, the hospital. The corridors were quiet, and the machinery hummed softly. She felt her pulse steady, yet tightness coiled in her chest. She knew Lee would be there, likely already making her rounds or drifting into her office. Katie braced herself before knocking lightly. Lee looked up in amazement. Katie couldn't interpret her expression as it flickered and changed. "Katie," she answered. Katie spoke calmly but firmly. "We need to talk now." Lee's gaze sharpened. "What about Luna?" Katie handed the envelope across the desk. Lee's face became pale as she comprehended what was within. "What is this?" "It's your pregnancy test," Katie explained. "We believed it belonged to Luna. It turns out this is yours." Lee's lips parted, and Katie saw vulnerability for the first time. A crack in the steel. But only for a moment. Lee restored her composure. "That's impossible," Lee responded. Her tone was harsh and defensive. Katie leaned forwards. "You should explain." "I do not want lies, Lee." "No more secrets," Lee said, her gaze flicking away. She crossed her fingers across the surface, her knuckles whitening. I didn't intend for things to get this far." Katie's hands remained immobile. "Then start at the beginning. Tell me, why did you say Luna's water broke? Why did you try so hard to show she was pregnant? What are you hiding?" Lee swallowed and her voice tightened. "Because I wanted to protect her. Because things were escalating. Because I was afraid she would do something irreparable." Katie frowned. "Protect her? With lies? With deception?" "Lee, that just makes things worse." Lee's face collapsed. She exhaled. "I did not want her to become emotionally unstable. She is delicate." And when she insisted on taking the test, and everything continued falling apart, I panicked. "Panic is no excuse," Katie said softly. "But I will give you one chance, Lee. You must tell me everything, the origin of this exam, the motivation, the time frame, or I will forward this to Will, Bill, and everyone. And I'll make sure that whatever lies are disclosed don't injure Luna any further." Lee's eyes were filled with defeat. She nodded, shakily. "Okay, I'll tell you." Later that afternoon, in Katie's home office, Lee spelled out the timeline. How she found Luna's obsession with Will, how she feared Luna might kill herself if things didn't go her way, and how Lee sought to stall, manipulate, and deflect attention, but never genuinely harm. She admitted planting the test, changing labels, and manipulating evidence to make it appear Luna was pregnant. It was a psychological wedge intended to destabilize Luna and prevent her from making unsafe judgments. Katie listened, her expression a mix of sorrow and determination. When Lee finished, she placed her palm on Lee's quivering hand. "You violated trust, Lee. You violated limits that we cannot easily forgive. But I believe there is still hope for redemption, for you and Luna. But it must start with the truth." Lee nodded, tears in her eyes. "I'll do whatever it takes." Katie's phone rang. She took a quick check at it. Messages from Will and Bridget. The implications of this disclosure would spread quickly. She braced herself.